Hello, welcome to week 13 of CSM. Today I'll be covering what will scheme output involving various define and eval functions. So this first question over here says define C2. I know that this is going to be a define expression because of this define keyword. Now looking at the syntax of this statement, if you have a define statement followed by some sort of symbol, and then some sort of expression or value, this is essentially going to act as an assignment statement in which it will assign the value of the expression to said symbol. So here I'm going to assign the value of 2 to the variable c. And with these defined statements, they will always return the symbol itself. So I will bind my value of 2 to c, and then I will return the value c. Next, I have eval quote c. The quote will basically always evaluate to the unevaluated expression itself. So in other words, whatever subsequently follows the c will be returned. Whatever subsequently follows the quote will be returned, and we will basically remove that quote. So in call expressions, the order of operations in which we enact is we have some sort of operator, followed by operands. We will first evaluate the operator, then we will evaluate all of the operands, and then we will apply the operator to the operands. So in this case, we're going to first evaluate the operator, which is going to be our eval function. Next, we're going to evaluate our operands. So evaluating our operands will give us eval c, because quote c evaluates to just the c expression itself. It doesn't evaluate the value of c, which is 2. It just returns the actual expression itself. Next, we want to apply our operators onto our operands. So if we apply our eval function on c, we're essentially saying evaluate the value of c. And in the previous line, we've already assigned the value of c to 2, so eval c will return 2. Next, we have apostrophe or quote cons 1 nil. Cons is a certain way of creating a scheme list, and cons creates scheme lists in a way very similarly to linked lists. So they will always have a first value and then a next value. And in this case, nil is equivalent to like the value of null when you're creating a linked list. So cons 1 nil is essentially creating a list with just the value 1, because the next value is going to be null. And again, because we have this quote symbol over here, we don't have to worry about what the actual list looks like is right now. We just know that this entire expression is just going to evaluate to cons 1 nil, because we're going to return the value of the expression, but in its unevaluated form. So you're just going to keep the expression as is and essentially remove that quote. Next, we have eval and then apostrophe cons 1 nil. So this is going to be very similar to the second question that I did over here. You're going to evaluate the operator, which is just going to be eval. You're going to evaluate the value of the operands. So that's just going to be cons 1 nil. You're going to remove that quotation mark. You're going to remove that quote. And then you're going to apply the value of the operator onto the operands. So you're just going to apply eval onto cons 1 nil. So when you evaluate this list, you're just going to return the actual value of the list itself. So that's just going to look like this. This is how we represent scheme lists. We put the actual values of the list within parentheses. And then for this last question, again, always following the same operator, operand, and then application structure, we're going to evaluate the operator, which is just going to be eval. Then we're going to evaluate this entire operand. So list is another way of creating scheme lists, and they're not structured in a linked list sort of way. You just put all of the values inside of the list, and then they will put it in a list for you. And make sure that you take note of these quotation marks as well. So in this case, evaluating this expression will give us a list of if, even, question mark, C, 1, and 2. I'll explain this step by step. So first, this list essentially puts our entire structure, our entire argument, I guess you can assume, into a list. So that's why I put these parentheses around the expression itself, because that's our way of demonstrating that we have a list. And then the if, and then this entire sequence following the quote, these are both going to stay unevaluated because of that quote. So I'm going to keep my if as is, and then I'm also going to keep my even question mark C as is, because they will stay unevaluated. Next, we're going to evaluate these values over here, the 1 and the 2. And because they're atomics or self-evaluating expressions, they're just going to remain the same. They're going to evaluate to just 1 and 2. So this is going to be the statement that you get after evaluating the operator and the operands. Lastly, all we have to do is apply. So let's go ahead and then apply our eval function onto our argument. We're just going to evaluate this statement over here. So upon evaluating this statement, we're just going to have this if condition over here. And upon evaluating this if condition, if it's true, we're going to return the first value. If it's false, we're going to return the second value. That's how the if statement works. So if even C checks to see if C is an even value. Because we know that C over here was assigned to the value of 2 and 2 is even, this if statement is going to be true. So if this if statement is true, we'll return this first value over here, which is going to be our 1. And then that's just going to be what this last question evaluates to.